Welcome to the Inspiration Trilogy, a platform for women across the globe to share wisdom, advice, and just have some meaningful conversations. So, I'm your host today, Marika Gare, and today we'll be having a guest on the show, Stephanie McCurdy, who is a human design and gene key alchemist who helps women find their purpose, and you also help them parent with design. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the invite and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share and guide people with human design.
Look, it's great to have you on the show. I think it's such an interesting topic. But just to get things started, look, for the listeners out there who may not be aware of your presence online and who you are and what you do, would you like to explain a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you are?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I guess I have been doing human design for a few years now, guiding people with it, and I'm certified. But before that, quite a few years ago, I was my own business owner. I was doing very well. I was successful, but I was completely burnt out. My life was out of balance. I was trying to parent, managing a house, managing a small business, doing all the things, wearing all the hats. And to be honest, I just couldn't function. So I came across human design. It didn't really sink in with me. I kind of put it to the side, and then it popped up again a few months later. I delved into it. I got a free chart online, which you can get on my website, to find out what I was. And oh my gosh, it literally was like I got hit by a bus. It was like it was the missing piece of the puzzle. I finally saw and understand myself for who I truly was. And honestly, it changed my life. I changed my business, I changed everything, and now I teach other people and guide them through their human design. So I guess be their authentic selves without all the conditioning of society and generational bits and pieces going on.
Yeah. Wow. So for those who want to learn a little bit more about human design and what it actually is, can you go into a bit more detail for the listeners?
Yes, absolutely. So human design is this beautiful blend of, I guess, quantum physics and astronomy, and then you're pulling in some spirituality, I guess, some I Ching and Kabbalah. So it mixes all these different modalities to give you this blend, or I suppose chart, we call it, but ultimately it's a map. It's a map of you, of your life, and how you can best live your life to be your authentic self and to avoid all the pitfalls in life. And it's really not to put you in a box and say you must do this and you must not do that. It's just to align you, how you make decisions, how you communicate, how you parent, how you're best to use your energy so you're completely in flow.
Yeah. And so what are the different types of human designs? Because I understand there's 4 distinct types. Is that right?
Yeah, well, there's actually 5. So I can go through them really briefly.
Yeah.
And I guess, again, what happens is, it's very funny. When I found out my human design as well, I was like, oh my gosh, that is exactly not what I am, turning up in the world to be, because I've been conditioned, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when people find out their human design, they're just like, that does not sound like me at all. But, trust that it is you, and then, experiment with it. But let's go into the 5 different types. So first of all, there's the manifestors. So they're like 9% of the population. And a manifestor is basically here to change the world. They're the inventors, they're the doers. They are quite headstrong. They can be go-getters, impulsive, independent. But those guys are here to do things. When you see Nike saying, just do it, or people saying, just go out and do it. Literally, manifestors are the only people that can do it. And what happens is when the rest of the population try and make things happen, that's when the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
We end up turning our wheels and go around in circles and things don't happen. So that's our manifestors. And manifestors, if they're not in alignment, it can show up as anger. All right. So that's for them. It's like going, okay, something is off. I need to, back off and have a look at this. And this is why anger is coming up for me. Manifestors also are best to inform people what they're doing. So this is great for you if you have a manifestor child. And what that means is manifestors do not need to ask for permission before they do something. They just inform others. So they're like, I'm going to do this anyway. I'm just letting you know. I know.
So
right?
is it the same for when you sort of ask people for advice? Like, would manifestors be this type where they ask for advice, but like, I'm totally on that board, but I'm going to do what I want? Is that the same sort of thing?
manifestors don't ask for advice. They already know what they're doing. They're here to
Okay.
change the world, right?
Yeah.
And they're the trailblazers. So if you have a manifestor in your life, they won't be asking you for advice. Honestly, they already have the answers. They're just telling you what they're doing. Because what happens is manifestors can typically be too much for people. They're too loud, too boisterous, too this, too that. And typically when they're being parented, they're, parents are trying to keep them safe and keep them small because they're always like pushing the boundaries and doing things risky because they feel that they can, and they energetically can. They're here to do that, to change the world. But parents end up in this kind of like battle of wills, I guess, with the manifestor. And it's just to teach them, or teach them as adults as well, just to inform you what they're doing. Because what happens is they've been so used to being saying, no, you can't do this. No, that's dangerous. No, you're not allowed. No, 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 no. They're going to go and do it anyway, right?
Definitely sounds like my son.
And, yeah, right. So they're going to do it anyway. But if you teach them, or adults in your life, that just to inform you, then it stops the secretivity, so, or being blindsided. If you find something out and then they've done it behind your back, sort of thing. And that's even for adults. So again, not asking permission. I'm just letting you know they're here to inform you because they're going to do it anyway. So that's
powerful type.
Yeah. And to be honest, most of humanity and most of human beings have been conditioned to be a manifestor, and we're actively, we're not. So it's very interesting. So then we move on to our manifesting generators. So these are really fast movers. Again, they're go-getters, very energetic. They can go from 0 to 100 in seconds. They're like a Maserati. They're like running out the gate. So these people that are going so fast, they're multitasking so much, and they have lots of things on the go, right? Lots of different interests, lots of different jobs, lots of different hobbies. Maybe not finishing what they start, or maybe forgetting something, or skipping steps and going back to doing stuff, or starting things and not, dropping them because it doesn't align with them anymore. So that's your typical manifestor. And to be honest, they're the people that are like really impatient, or tapping their feet, or want to get on to the next thing. So there's a lot of manifestors in the world. And actually and I'll just touch on this. It's very interesting because a lot of manifestors that I meet, manifesting generators, this one, have been diagnosed with ADHD or some sort of neurodiverse, because they're just go, 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 energy, 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 cannot stop. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes cannot focus on one thing because they're off to the next. The beauty about manifesting generators, and this is 35% of the population, is that they are uniquely capable of doing that. They are uniquely capable of having lots of things on the go at the same time. They can energetically.
And that's how they work. That's how they thrive. That's how they function. So for them, that's quite normal and it's manageable. But so you're saying with the manifestors / generators, sorry to just cut you off for a minute there, is that a combined human design, or do you just mean both of them?
No, so a manifesting generator is its own human design.
Okay.
So it takes in some traits from a manifestor and some traits from a generator.
Okay, so you can have that combined. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but you're born that way, so it kind of has the traits of both of them. Or like even these kids are just kids that are like this, they're doing lots of things at the same time, or they start something one term, they're like, I don't want to do it anymore, right? But and I use this analogy a lot of the time. If you think of a lightning bolt and you try and put it in a jar, and then it's like ping, 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 right?
Yeah.
Expel all that energy on all these different projects and stuff, then it gets stuck in the body, and it's going to come out in different ways as well. And so it's just good to get them to use up all that energy where they can. And for adults as well, because what I find in later life for adults that are manifesting generators, they can sometimes have like thyroid problems or adrenal problems later in life, because all this energy has been stuck in the body for so long. Wow. But manifesting generators, it would be wise for them also to check in with their guts before they make decisions on things. Because their gut responds to make decisions. So it's very much like, is this for me? Yes or no? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or this or that. And that's why they kind of, they're very intuitive, and they're always checking in with themselves. And that's why they let things drop or go to the next thing, because it doesn't align with them anymore. To
Mm.
people looking in from the outside, that might look like flaky, and you're like, well, oh my God, what are they doing now? They've changed their minds again. I can't keep up with you. That is just the way they are, and they're beautifully unique the way they are, and they're very intuitive, and they're here to do that.
Yeah.
It shows up for them as well when they're out of alignment, frustration and anger.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just aware of time, so I'm going to try and get through these as quickly as I can and give you
That's
as much
fine.
information that you can say, hey, that sounds like me, or that sounds like my kid, or that sounds like my partner. Because I'm actually married to a manifesting generator, and my oldest daughter is a manifestor. My next daughter is a generator. My son is a projector, and I'm a projector. So I have first-hand experience of all of this. So I see how it plays out, and it's very interesting. So the next human design is a generator, right? So they are also 35% of the population. They're energetic, also like a manifesting generator, but not as fast moving. They more have that sustainable energy. It's like they could do like a marathon. And so they're like the workhorses, but also like generators, it is not wise for them to commit to anything unless they check in with their gut. So they're also highly intuitive. And so what that would look like is if they commit to something or say yes to something and try and people please, it's very hard to turn the sacral or the gut off once it's committed to something. So they will be down the road, you know, expending all this time and energy and resources on relationships or jobs or hobbies that are not for them.
Yeah.
And then they're wasting a lot of time and energy on that as well.
Mm. So
Generators.
they're people pleasers. That's a big aspect.
No, not so much, but that was just there's different areas of the chart which is not in the energy. I won't be able to go through it today, but there is an actual part in our charts that isn't around people pleasing and when you're in a low or high frequency. I just use that as an example. Any energy type can have some people pleasing tendencies depending on placements in your charts. This is just like an overview of the energy types, but in your chart, there's so many different details and so many moving parts that this is just like I guess an umbrella sort of a thing, you know, but if it tweaks your interest, then obviously I can go into detail with people. But yeah, and generators have this usual open enveloping aura and people are drawn to them magnetically. So they're, beautiful humans. And then we move on to our projectors. So our projectors are about 20% of the population. So these guys are more like insightful, intuitive, wise. They've got an old head on their shoulders. They can read people very well, read the room very well. But they don't have access to energy that a lot of the other signs have. So they're people that work better in spurts, or they need to have lots of rests or time out, which might come across as being lazy, but they get drained from being around on the other energy types. You know, so if you're a projector, you work better, let's just say a 9-to-5 job might like kill you and suck the energy and life force out of you. Might be one that works like for 2 or 3 hours in the morning and take the afternoon off, or work for 3 days and then take the rest of the week off. And that's the same for kids, you know, they might not have the energy to do cross country, for example, but they might be one that are really good at 100-meter sprints, you know. They're the ones that like stuff that is short and snappy. And then our projectors, what else can I say about them? Yeah, so they can be quite sensitive as well. And if they're out of alignment, that shows up as bitterness. Because what happens for projectors is they have a very penetrating aura and they can see into people and see into situations. But if they give their opinion without being asked, then it will fall on deaf ears and people will not hear them. So a lot of the time they feel invisible and they feel that people cannot hear and see them unless they have been invited. So, projectors need to be invited to be recognized or invited into games if they're a kid. They're not one of them kids or an adult that if you say, hey, I'm going for a walk, that they'll say, oh, I'll join you. But if you say, would you like to come for a walk with me? Then that's their invite. Okay. That's just the way they are as a kid. So if you have a kid as a projector, it's good to instill those play dates and say, hey, would you like to join us? They're not one of them kids that's just going to go, you know, in and join a whole group of people, if that makes sense. And then last but not least is our reflectors. So that's 1% of the population. So our reflectors, basically like the word says, is they reflect everything around them. They're like a mirror, right? They're like a mirror to the environment around them, to the collective, to the community, to the classroom, to the family, to the peer group. And they
Mm.
can feel and see everything and absorb it, all the energy from everything that is happening around them, and it can feel good or not feel good to them. So they can be, it's like typically you're empaths, and not to say if you're not a reflector, you're not an empath. There's loads of empaths that are different energy types, but typically they're the empaths and
Okay.
quite intuitive. And yeah, and if they're out of alignment to them, it shows up as disappointment, then let
Okay.
down.
That's interesting. So it's interesting because you've got the four main types, but you can have a blended sort of mix, which I guess the way that you're, I mean, obviously you'd have people would need a more in-depth personalized design done for them because they can, I mean, there's parts of each one that you said there that you can kind of, I guess, relate to perhaps, or think that your children
Yeah.
can relate to.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes, again, as I said, we've been conditioned, right? Because of
Mm.
society and the way things are and the way work is and everything in life, you know, and society at the moment, that we have been conditioned. Because I was
Mm.
working as a manifester. I used to go out there and get shit done and make things happen and hustle and grind and all these sorts of things. And no wonder I was completely burnt out.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I remember being a projector, but somewhere along the line, I was conditioned, whether it was
Mm.
in school or through my peers or through my family, to kind of go out there and push the boundaries and whatever. And then when
Mm.
you know, so it's kind of like learning about yourself and your true essence and understanding yourself at your core. And for me, literally, it was like such a wake up call. It was like a breath of fresh air. And I was like, oh, there's actually nothing wrong with me. I am absolutely fine the way I
Mm.
am. I just didn't know myself.
Yeah.
Thought I was something else, because we've all pretty much been brought up or parented probably the same way if
Mm.
you're in a family, even though there's lots of different personalities. And I guess if somebody is feeling a little bit different or they don't fit into the status quo, they're feeling like the black sheep. So there's adults walking around wounded and feel like they've never belonged. And you know, a lot of this goes back to our childhood and then, you know, human design or trauma in different bits and pieces. But not feeling seen or heard or being your authentic self, you know. And
Wow.
that's not a parent's fault either, you know, that's just a generational thing. People do the best that they can do with the tools that they have.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I find it's really interesting. So what when someone comes to you, what's the first sort of thing that you go through with them to try and find out their type? So what do you just, is it like a questionnaire? You do a lot of questions, you focus on emotional side of things. So you really do a whole life, I guess, a whole understanding of their whole life to come up with their plan, their design.
No, it's actually literally takes 2 minutes. All I need is where they were born, the location, sorry, the date they were born, the location they were born, and the time they were born. And then we can work out with those. So typically a lot of people would say to me, I don't know my time of birth, right? It's not on my birth cert, or I don't have that information, or my parents don't remember, or whatever it is. So we can figure that out, because in a 24-hour cycle, sometimes there's not a huge change in the cosmos and the planets and the things that are happening around there. But then another time, somebody's chart might change 4 times. So I can kind of do a test with them. Do you feel more like this or that, this or that? Or we do muscle tests, or depending on how intuitive they are to themselves, you know,
Mm.
they can tune in with their higher self and find out that information. Um, but you only need those 3 things. So on my website, I actually have where you can put those details in, and it'll generate a chart for you like straight away within a couple of seconds.
Wow.
It's then to decipher the chart, right? That's the fun part. So that's where I come in. I'm your guide to decipher it. But there's information out there that you can get straight away. And I have freebies all over my website on the main things are your energy type, you know, what I went through the 5 there to understand that. And then the second one is to understand how you make decisions. Because again, we've all been conditioned to make decisions with our heads, our brain, be logical, write your pros and cons,
Mm.
you know, be an adult about it. And to be honest, our head is not to make decisions. It's great for being you know, ideas or inspiration or conceptualizing solutions, but it's not here to
Mm.
make our decisions. We are here to make decisions with our body. But again, we forgot that somewhere along the line. We did that as
Yeah.
kids, and it was conditioned out of us.
Yeah.
So
Society conditions a lot of things out of us from a young age.
I know.
Right?
I'm getting
when you really think about it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just coming back to yourself, remembering who you are, remembering who you are. And that's what a lot about. We've forgotten ourselves. We've forgotten that, and there's that inner child aspect there as well. We've forgotten. And it's then go, gosh, yes, I do remember that. But yeah, coming back to your question, so it's your energy type, how you make decisions. Most of us are very intuitive, and we've forgotten how to use our intuition. But we second guess ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We're afraid of trusting ourselves. So we procrastinate or make bad decisions, and then the wheels fall off. And then the third thing is how we use our energy and how we respond to life. So knowing yourself. And those three things I can teach or guide people very quickly, what the main things are, in a half an hour. But then there's so many moving parts as well in a chart. And if they wanted deeper readings or learn about themselves, we can absolutely do that. There's so much to learn, but they can really get the main bits in about half.
So it's a bit like your horoscope, right? Where you get that I find for myself and many others, that helps you kind of connect with parts of yourself. Do you find that with human design that there are specific star signs perhaps that are usually one particular sort of human design, or is it
no, it's a complete mix, because there is some astronomy that comes in, but I'm not a fan of star signs or horoscopes. And because again, it kind of puts it into a box, because there's so many moving parts in human design. Like, for instance, there's like your incarnation cross, right? And within that, it actually helps you find your purpose and what you're here on this human experience to do, and how you can unblock, those fears or those limiting beliefs are coming up. And, there's some deeper stuff. This is kind of fun stuff that you can do the parenting and understand yourself. But, typically people come to me when they have some sort of identity crisis. They're like, what am I actually here to do? They get to a stage where they're like, well, there has to be more than go to work, come home, have your dinner, watch TV, rinse and repeat, day in, day out, every week, every month, every year. And whatever that identity crisis is, you get to your 40s, or you're having kids, or you're changing job, or somebody close to you dies, whatever it is. And then you're like, actually, what the hell is this all for?
Yeah.
So
I know, like, a lot of us do get to that sort of in the 40s or middle age, or when you become a parent, that you really like, what else is there for me? What is my purpose? Because, in your younger years, you tend to you float around and you're really trying to find your groove, but sometimes you get caught up in, like you said, work or, family and things like that, and then you forget to focus on yourself and where your direction is at. So, yeah, I think it's really important to have that understanding. So you go in it, it's not just doing the human design and the gene codes, you really delve into a greater spiritual depths as well, and in understanding yourself.
Yeah. So go into your consciousness, I guess. What am I here to do? Who am I here to serve? How can I make a difference? Every human being is uniquely here for a purpose, and forgotten. And then this is the remembrance, okay? And then it brings up the gifts and the shadows, and it's just like, again, like, oh my God, aha, that makes so much sense. Or that has been showing up in my life. Or I have that awareness, I can see that. So how can I shift it? How can I shift into a higher frequency? Or how can I shift to make the most of it? Because I actually am here for a purpose. We all are. And it's to find that. I think that's the, what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
What's the meaning of my life?
And I think so many people, especially after COVID, and I know that people bring that up all the time, but it really has changed the way people view things. And I think around the world at the moment, there's so many people that are kind of waking up to a greater purpose, I guess, of this life, and why we're here, and what we're to do. So, look, I think what you do is so interesting. There's so much we could talk about. But for those out there who want to learn a little bit more after listening to the podcast today and reach out to you, what's the greatest place to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach out to me on Facebook. That's where I hang out. I have a free Facebook group, so I'm always putting freebies in there, and we're talking about things about human design and also some gene keys as well, because they marry beautifully together. And my website, I have free downloadables, how to communicate with your kids, you know, on their human design, a lot of free masterclasses delving on different parts, or you can book a reading. So I'll drop in a discount code for anybody that would like to book a reading. I also have a human design and gene keys school. So if you want to learn about it for your business, for yourself, or for your family, I have 1-day workshops every couple of months as well in person, upcoming programs. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to work with me or delve into this a little bit deeper, depending on where you're at in your life. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Look, I think it would be such a transforming process for people. So what we'll do is we'll put all the information in the bio below for the listeners out there. And look, reach out to Stephanie. I think she has a wealth of experience and knowledge to offer. So thank you for being on the show today. It's been great having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved every second of it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And for all the listeners out there, we'll be back up soon with more episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.